Let me ask you something honestly. When you hear the words peer pressure, what comes into your mind? Bad influence, wrong choices, ruined futures. What if I told you that peer pressure, the same that we blame, is actually a force that wakes people up? Peer pressure is usually described as something external. People forcing you, people pushing you. But in reality, peer pressure is internal. It's comparison, it's awareness. It is the quiet moment when you realize I'm not where I'm supposed to be. In this video, we are breaking peer pressure down slowly, not to judge, but to understand it. Welcome to Kanage YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, you're missing out. Before we continue, remember this: avoiding influence is impossible. The only choice that you have is who shapes you. With that said, here are 9 advantages of peer pressure that nobody talks about. Number 1, motivation to improve. Most people think motivation comes from inside. That one day you wake up inspired, focused, ready. That's a lie we were sold. Motivation usually comes from comparison. Let me take you into a real moment. You are in the same class, the same lecture hall, same timetable. You even sit next to each other. At the beginning, you are equal. You joke the same way. You complain about the same lecture the same way. You say, we'll figure it out the same way. Then something changes. One of you starts taking things seriously. They stop sitting at the back. They start asking questions. They stop saying this course is useless. And they start saying, I need to pass this properly. Nothing dramatic happens. No confrontation, no insult, no pressure. But inside you, something tightens. At first, you ignore it. You tell yourself, it's not that serious. We are still young. We'll catch up. But here's the truth most people won't admit. Their improvement exposes your comfort. Not because they are better than you, but because deep down you know you could be doing more. That feeling is peer pressure. No shouting, no forcing, just truth arriving without permission. Now here's the dangerous part. Most people don't fail because they lack ability. They fail because they stay in environments that never challenge them. When someone around you relaxed, laziness feels normal. When everyone around you is stuck, stagnation feels safe. But the moment someone close to you moves forward, staying in the same situation feels uncomfortable. That discomfort is where motivation is born. Not the clean Instagram type, the messy type, the kind that keeps you awake at night, the kind that makes you rethink your choices, the kind that whispers, if they can do it, why am I not trying? That question is powerful because once you ask it honestly, excuses start collapsing. You realize that time is moving, people are changing, life is not waiting, and suddenly improvement stops being an option. You don't study because you are inspired. You study because falling behind feels worse. You don't work hard because you love the effort. You work harder because mediocrity starts feeling loud. This is why peer pressure works. It doesn't give you energy. It removes your ability to lie to yourself. And here's the philosophical part. Pain doesn't come from comparison. Pain comes from unrealized potential. Seeing someone close to you improve reminds you of the version of yourself you are avoiding. And once you see that version clearly, you can't unsee it. And that's why this kind of motivation is dangerous and powerful, because it doesn't fade quickly. It follows you into your decision, into your habits, into the way you see time. And once motivation enters life through discomfort, it demands structure. Number 2, it encourages good habits. Motivation is noisy. Habits are quiet. This is where most people get confused. You can feel motivated for weeks and still not change your life. But the moment your habits change, everything else follows. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Most of your habits didn't come from discipline. They come from copying the people around you. Let me show you how this happened in real life. At first, nothing changes dramatically. You're still hanging out with the same people, still talking the same way, still joking the same way. Then small shifts start appearing. Your friends stop being available all the time. They start saying things like,
I can't come today.
I have to wake up early. I need to finish something. At first, it annoys you. You feel ignored. You feel like you're becoming boring. You feel like you're being left behind. So you cope the only way people do, by downplaying it. You tell yourself, they are being too much.
Life is not that serious.
Here's the part people don't talk about. Their habits start judging yours. When you sleep late and wake up tired, it hits differently. When you waste the day scrolling, it feels heavier. When you skip studying, it doesn't feel free, it feels careless. That peer pressure, not forcing you to change, but making your old habits feel out of place. This is how good habits actually enter into your life, not through motivation, through discomfort with who you are becoming. You start making small adjustments, not because you planned to, but because you want a relief. Not perfectly, just enough. And then something interesting happens. The habits start rewarding you. You feel less rushed. You feel less guilty. And now the pressure flips. You don't want to go back. Not because someone is watching, but because you've tasted a better version of your day. Here's the philosophical part. Humans don't choose habits logically. They choose habits that help them fit in. That's why environment beats willpower every single time. If discipline is normal around you, laziness feels abnormal. If focus is normal around you, distraction feels expensive. Peer pressure doesn't give you good habits. It makes bad habits socially uncomfortable. And once habits shift, your identity begins to change. You stop saying, I am trying, and start saying, this is who I am now. That identity shift is powerful because once habits become identity, they no longer require motivation. This leads us to the next advantage. Number 3, it gives a sense of belonging. Here is the truth most people never confront. You don't act the way you act because of who you are. You act the way you are because where you belong. Belonging is invisible, but it controls everything. Let me explain. Think about the version of you that comes out in different spaces. Around certain people, you are serious. Around others, you are careless. Around others, you are ambitious. Around others, you pretend you don't care. Same person, different environment. That should already tell you something important. Belonging doesn't just give comfort. It gives you permission. Permission to speak. Permission to dream. Permission to try. Now here's where peer pressure enters quietly. When you're surrounded by people who don't expect much from life, effort feels embarrassing. You don't want to be the one who studies too much. You don't want to be the one who talks about goals, who asks deep questions. So you shrink. Not because you are lazy, but because you don't want to be rejected. That's still peer pressure. But when you step into a different circle, something shifts. You meet people who talk about their future casually, people who plan, people who are trying imperfectly, but sincerely. And suddenly something strange happens. Your ambition doesn't feel loud anymore. It feels normal. You don't feel like you are showing off. You feel like you are catching up. That's belonging at work. Here's the dangerous part. Most people think they lack confidence. What they actually lack is an environment where their growth is welcomed. When you belong to a group that values effort, you stop fighting yourself. You stop hiding curiosity. You stop minimizing your potential. You stop apologizing for wanting more. Belonging removes internal conflict. And when internal conflict disappears, confidence starts forming naturally. This is why belonging is so powerful. It stabilizes you. It tells your nervous system you are safe to grow. And once you feel safe to grow, you start showing up differently. Your posture changes, your voice changes, your presence changes. Number 4, it boosts confidence. Most people misunderstand confidence. They think confidence is being loud, being fearless, being certain. But real confidence is much quieter. Confidence is self-trust. Self-trust is not built alone. Let me explain. When you are isolated, every decision feels heavy. Every mistake feels personal. Every failure feels like a proof that you're not good enough. Why? Because there is no reference point. But when you're around people who are trying, failing, adjusting, and try again, something shifts. You realize that struggle is normal. That confusion is normal. Growth is messy. That realization removes fear. When people around you expect effort from you, you start meeting those expectations. And slowly, without noticing, you start keeping small promises to yourself. You wake up when you say you will. You show up when you say you will. You try even when you are unsure. Those small acts stack. And that's where confidence actually comes from. Not from believing you are special, but from evidence that you can rely on yourself. Here's the philosophical part. Confidence is not the absence of doubt. It is the belief that you will act despite doubt. Peer pressure helps here because it reduces hesitation. You don't overthink it much because action is normal in your environment. You stop asking, what if I fail? And start asking, what is the next move? This shift is everything. And once confidence grows internally, something else changes. Your communication. You speak differently. You are less defensive. You listen better and explain yourself without fear. This brings us to the next advantage. Number 5, it builds social skills. Most people think social skills are personality traits. It is either you're good with people or you are not. That's false. Social skills are adaptation skills. And adaptation only happens under pressure. Let me explain it in a way that you are going to recognize. When you are around people who don't challenge you, you can hide, you can blend in. Silence costs nothing. When you are around sharp, driven, curious people, silence becomes expensive. You can't just nod, you can't just agree, you have to participate. Peer pressure forces interaction, not aggressively, but naturally. You are asked questions, your ideas are challenged, your opinions are tested. At first, it is uncomfortable. You stumble over words. You feel exposed. And many people run away at this stage. But those who stay evolve. They learn how to explain yourself without rambling. They learn how to disagree without being defensive. They learn how to listen without feeling attacked. That's social skill right there. Here is the part people miss. You don't become socially skilled by telling more. You become socially skilled by thinking clearly under pressure. Peer pressure creates that pressure. When your peers expect contribution, your mind sharpens. You start organizing thoughts faster. You start choosing words carefully. You learn timing. This doesn't just help in conversation. It helps in interviews. It helps in presentations. It helps in relationships. And it also helps in leadership. Social confidence doesn't come from approval. It comes from familiarity with discomfort. When you are being misunderstood and survived, when you have disagreed and stayed respected, when you have spoken badly and improved, you stop fearing people. And once you stop fearing people, something dangerous happens. You start comparing yourself realistically, not emotionally. This leads directly to the next advantage. Number 6, it helps with healthy competition. Let's be honest about something uncomfortable. No one likes to admit that they compare themselves to others. We say things like, I'm focused on my own lane. I don't compare myself with anyone. That sounds mature, but it is not actually true. Comparison is automatic. It's human. The problem is not comparison. The problem is unconscious comparison. Peer pressure brings comparison into the open. Let me take you into the real moment. You see someone your age doing better than you. Same background, same resources, same starting point. And for a split of a second, your chest tightens. Not hatred, not jealousy, just awareness. You realize that this could have been me. That moment is dangerous because your ego has two options. Option number one is to protect itself. You start downplaying their success. They just got lucky. They are doing too much. That won't last. That path leads to bitterness. Option two, tell the truth. You admit that they work harder. They took it seriously. They stayed consistent. That path leads to growth. Healthy competition begins when ego steps aside. It is not about beating other people. It is about refusing to lie to yourself. Here's where peer pressure matters. When improvement is visible in your circle, you can't hide behind excuses. You can't blame the system as easily. Someone near you has already proved that it is possible. That proof creates pressure, but it is a clean pressure. It doesn't insult you. It doesn't rush you. It simply asks, what are you going to do now? Healthy competition wakes you up. It forces self-assessment. You start looking at how you spend time, how you manage energy, what you avoid, what you delay, and slowly priorities change. Not because you hate where you are, but because you respect what you could become. Competition is not about superiority. It's about calibration. It shows you the real standard. Without competition, you might think you are doing well until you see someone doing better with the same tools. That doesn't make you small. It makes you accurate. And accuracy is powerful because once you know where you truly stand, growth becomes intentional. You stop guessing. You stop drifting. You start aiming. And here's the final layer. Healthy competition doesn't just push effort. It expands imagination. You see possibilities you never considered before. Number 7, it exposes you to new ideas. Most people think that their limits are personal. Actually, they are not. They are inherited from family, from friends, from environment. You don't wake up one day and decide what's possible. You absorb it. Let me show you how this works in real life. You grow up hearing certain phrases. That's not realistic. People like us don't do that. Focus on finishing school first. At first, this sounds reasonable, but over time, they harden into mental words. You don't even question them. Now peer pressure enters quietly. You meet someone who thinks differently. Not louder, not arrogant, just differently. They talk about opportunities you have never considered. Ideas that feel big at first. Your first impression is resistance. That won't work. That's risky. That's not for me. But here's the truth. Your mind resists ideas that threaten its comfort. Exposure is uncomfortable because it removes excuses. When people around you see the world differently, your old beliefs start feeling fragile. Not wrong, just incomplete. Sometimes it is not one conversation. One sentence like, why don't you try?
Have you ever thought about this differently? You don't have to do it that way.
And suddenly something cracks. You realize that you have been living inside borrowed limits. This is why exposure is powerful. It doesn't convince you. It shows you options exist. And once you see options, you can't pretend they don't exist anymore. That awareness is pressure. But again, not aggressive pressure. It is the pressure of possibility. Now here's the deepest part. Ideas alone don't change lives. Most people get inspired, then return to old patterns. Why? Because ideas need a friction to become action. And that friction comes from people watching, from conversations continuing, from follow-ups, from expectations. That is where peer pressure transitions into the next advantage. Number 8, accountability. There's a reason most goals stay private. Privacy protects quitting. When no one knows what you want, failure has no witnesses. Silence is safe. Excuses are comfortable. But peer pressure removes that comfort. Let me show you how it actually happens. You say something out loud, just a sentence. I'm trying to be more serious this semester. I want to improve. I'm working on something. The moment those words leave your mouth, something changes. The goal now exists outside your brain. People remember, they ask questions, they notice patterns, and suddenly, doing nothing feels heavier than doing something. That accountability. Not someone chasing you, not someone controlling you, just awareness. Peer pressure makes your intentions visible, and visibility changes behavior. You don't want to explain why you stopped. You don't want to justify why you disappeared. You don't want to look like someone who talks but never acts. So you show up, not perfectly, but consistently at first, but more than before. And that's enough to start momentum. Here's the philosophical part. Accountability is not about punishment. It is about identity alignment. Once people see you a certain way, you start acting in ways that protect that image. Not because you are fake, but because humans naturally act in line with how they want to be perceived. Peer pressure uses that instinct for growth. It locks you into action when motivation fades. And over time, something powerful happens. You stop needing external accountability because repeated action becomes self-respect. You don't want to disappoint yourself anymore. That is when accountability turns into responsibility, which leads us directly to the next advantage. Number 9, it encourages a responsible behavior. Responsibility doesn't arrive suddenly. It grows quietly. And most people don't become responsible because they decide to be. They become responsible because irresponsibility starts feeling expensive. Peer pressure plays a huge role here. Let me explain. When you are around people who take life lightly, recklessness feels normal. Missing deadlines isn't a joke. Wasting time is entertainment. Avoiding problems is common. You don't feel bad because everyone is doing it. But when your environment shifts, everything subtle happens. You are around people who plan ahead. People who think in weeks, not hours. People who care about consequences. Being careless feels out of place. No one says, be responsible. Peer pressure does something more effective. It makes irresponsibility socially uncomfortable. Here's the deeper truth. Responsibility is not about being serious all the time. It's about understanding cause and effect. When your peers connect actions to outcomes, you start doing the same. You stop seeing life as random. You stop blaming everything outside yourself. You begin asking, if I continue like this, where does this lead to? And once a responsibility becomes normal, something profound happens. Your life stops feeling chaotic. You feel more in control, more grounded, more intentional. Thank you for watching this video up to this far. And as you know, there is a bonus at the end. Be around people you want to be like. If you stayed this far, here's the real takeaway. This is the part most people never hear. You don't rise in life by trying harder. You rise by standing in better rooms. Your environment is either upgrading you or draining you. The truth is simple. The fastest way to change your life is to be around people who are already living slightly above your current level. Not people who intimidate you, not people who look down on you, but people who make growth feel normal. When you surround yourself with people who upgrade you, your standards rise, your excuses shrink, your effort increases naturally. You don't force discipline. You don't fight laziness. You adapt. That's how humans are wired. You start thinking better without trying. You start acting better without planning. You start wanting more without pressure. That is the real advantage of peer pressure. It's not about copying people. It's about catching their level. So choose your circle carefully, because whether you like it or not, they are shaping who you become. If there is one thing I hope that you take away from this video, it is this: peer pressure is not something you escape. It is something that you choose. Every environment you step into is shaping you. Every conversation is pulling you in a direction. Every circle you sit in is teaching you what to accept as normal. You don't rise or fall randomly. You rise or fall based on what you allow yourself to be around. The people you laugh with, the people you listen to, the people whose lives feel familiar to you. That's why growth feels hard when your environment doesn't support it. And that's why change feels easier when you are in the right room. So don't ask, what do I want to change about myself? Ask yourself, what environment am I staying in that is keeping me the same? Because the moment your environment changes, your behavior follows, your habits follows, and your life follows. Thank you for watching this video to the very end. If this video spoke to you, give it a thumbs up. It really helps this video reach more people who think like you. And if you watched this all this way to the end, comment the word upgrade down below. I want to know who stayed, who listened, and who is intentional about their growth. Also, don't forget to subscribe. It helps with boosting this channel and allows me to keep making videos like this. Until next time, take care, my friend.